Kazakhstan was, I think I was very apprehensive going to Kazakhstan for the first time. Just applying for the visa, etc. You know, Kazakhstan it spins out of the old USSR, and they are so very strict about who they allow into their country. So just the visa process alone, having to justify why I want to go there. And you know, if you say you're going there for 5 days, they give you a visa literally for 5 days. So you've got to make sure you don't miss your airplanes, etc. And you know, it's not like other places where you'd say, this is the dates I plan on visiting, and then they give you a 3-month visa around those dates, so to speak. Here you had you could get the feeling that you had to be in and out as stipulated on your visa, no variations allowed. And that's the type of feeling that you got even from the visa office. And I remember walking away from there thinking, they're never going to let me in there, because they just, you know, they just had such a serious face about them. But anyway, no, I did get my visa to visit Kazakhstan. And because I suppose they're so strict with who they let in, it is a very, very, when you do get into the country and you look around, you realize that they've been quite cut off from the rest of the world. And it's almost like time has stood still in Kazakhstan. Because the vehicles that you see, I think they're called Ladas, but they look like they're all Fiat 500s. And they're all over the place. The Fiat 500 Lada was a 4x4, it was a farm vehicle, it was in the cities, in the taxi. It's amazing how they could just use that vehicle for absolutely everything. But you could see it, you know, from the motor vehicles. And also, if you're walking around the towns, it's all very, very basic, very country-like, you know, like country houses, and everybody lived off the ground. So it's still very much, you know, no processed food. So if you go into a grocery store, you know, that was another culture shock when I walked into a grocery store and I wanted to grab something quickly to eat, and I realized this is not a place where you can buy crisps and chocolates and any of those things, because the grocery store is like a combination between a greengrocer, where you still have the soil attached to the roots of vegetables that are on display, just freshly plucked from the ground. Then there was a butchery section, fresh meat, and then a dairy section, and a couple of things, you know, toiletries, kind of household stuff on the shelf. And that was their grocery store. So I remember buying apples from there. The biggest apples I have ever seen. I swear they were big as cabbages. They were so huge. And it's just because, you know, that their life is farming. They're a farming type of community, and they live off the ground, and they're also healthy because of it. I don't think I even saw one unhealthy looking person in Kazakhstan. They all look so super fit. They walk a lot. So, you know, there are a lot of taxis that you can use, but they do a lot of walking. And they're all just very, very fit. Even, you know, the older people, you can see they walk, they're mobile. You'll see a lot of old couples shopping, which always warms my heart, because it just doesn't change no matter where you go in the world, you know. There's the lady pushing the trolley, and then the poor old husband that's scuttering around from one end of the shop to the other, and she's just pointing. Yeah, he's got to do it and then get to the till and haul out his wallet and pay. And it's the same anywhere you go in the world. But I mean, to see people that look like they're almost 80 or 90, all dressed up, you know, the lady with a bright scarf and the man with his cap. It's actually quite nice. It's quite heartwarming to see that. But I had my own experience with the older people of Kazakhstan, because on my first day there, I decided to catch some sun. It gets very cold in Kazakhstan, all the way down to -40. So it's really freezing. But I have luckily not visited when it was that cold, but it was the beginning of winter. About -5, which they tell me is still summertime. They still walk around with t-shirts, basically. But, you know, for me, coming from Africa, from South Africa, where it's warm, it was, you know, that was a shock. I had needed a jacket, and then I thought, let me take a walk to the park and sit on a park bench and warm myself up in the sun. And it's a park that a lot of families go to, with the, you know, pushing babies in prams. A lot of older people just walk around just for exercise and to get a bit of sun. And next to me on the park bench, not next to me, there was opposite me, facing me, there was another park bench with 2 older grannies, that were obviously walking and exercising. Bright scarves, they all dress up just to walk in the park. But they call them babushkas. Babushkas is the, the Kazakh or Russian name for the older ladies. And they were like looking at me, and I caught them looking at me and then smiling, and then they would walk, but in a very short circle, very quickly come back to that park bench, and they'd look at me again and, have a discussion in Kazakh or Russian and then laugh. And I thought to them, then I figured it out. I thought, they probably haven't seen someone like me in that rural farming town they probably wondered if I fell from the sky. Am I an alien? What am I? Who am I? And what am I doing in their town? I could see that sort of going through their minds as they tried to figure out, this. And when I said South African, they thought I was African. I said, I'm Indian, but I live in South Africa. And they would come and pinch my hand to ask me whether the color runs, because they were all very pale. They were, very, very fair-skinned. It's not often they see a tanned individual. They just couldn't get it past themselves that the color stays. It doesn't come off if you wash it off. So I had a lot of people in Kazakhstan wanting to just take pictures with me just because of my color, because it's not seen. So you can walk through that whole town end to end. You will not see anybody else that's even lightly tanned, because it's not their natural coloring in Kazakhstan. So I felt like a bit of a celebrity. I expected it. Every corner I went around, I knew it's either a family or a couple or just a person walking. Can I have a picture with you, whatever? Selfie. I felt like Michael Jackson, and it was awesome. But and also the food. Every country I go to, one of the first things I sample is the food. And Kazakhstan is a place where I was completely vegetarian for at least 3 days until I couldn't hold out anymore. And that's because about the only meat you'll find in Kazakhstan is horse meat. And it's a special breed of horse that they keep there, and there is a reason for that. Cattle don't survive minus 40 winter temperatures, nor do sheep or lamb or whatever. So they have this horse that I suppose is sort of indigenous, if I can use that word, to Kazakhstan, and they live in the wild. They have very, very fluffy coats. I've never seen horses that fluffy looking before, almost cuddly looking horses. But I suppose they need that coat, that thick coat, to survive the winter, and that's what they farm with. So this special breed, it's not a horse that they ride, those are different. Those look more like normal horses, but these ones, they farm with them. And then I researched horse meat, and I discovered it's got the least amount of allergens in of any meat. It's actually very lean, very little fat. It's actually very healthy to eat. So by the third day, I convinced myself that actually I should be eating this meat because it's exceptionally healthy. So I managed to taste one that was a piece that was on a skewer, barbecued, on a fire, outside fire. And it was actually very pleasant tasting. It's actually one of the nicest. It had a lot of flavor. I like lamb because it's got flavor, but I found this horse meat had its own sort of sweetish type of natural flavor to it, and I actually got to quite like it. Horse meat, that was quite something. But it didn't end there, because I did go to a lot of the local restaurants. I love to mingle with the locals and pretend that I'm one of them, So I'd go to their little restaurants where all the families were, and I saw these guys drinking something out of wooden bowls. And I thought, that looks interesting. I wonder, it's only the guys that were drinking this. And I thought, that looks very interesting. I think I'm going to order some of that. And because I can't speak Kazakh, I just generally point. If I see something that looks good on a plate, I want that. So I pointed to the bowl and I'd have that. And, they were I was like, too small. I said, no, bring me a jug of the stuff. And they bring this jug, put it down, get the wooden bowl. And then I'm researching, it got Google Translate out on the menu, trying to see it was actually camel's milk. And the thing with camel's milk is it has a natural alcohol content in the milk. So you're drinking camel's milk, it's not alcoholic. Remember, Kazakhstan's a Muslim country, so they're not allowed to drink alcohol or sell alcohol. So this camel's milk has a natural alcohol content in it. And I must say, it didn't taste too bad. I mean, if you can drink in South Africa sour milk or, that anything that's fermented, and if you like that taste, you would probably enjoy it. It was quite unique tasting. I can't even describe the taste, but very unique tasting. Doesn't smell very nice, though, I must say. But anyway, if you get it down, and after 2 or 3 bowls, you actually start to feel very good. So I'll believe them. They say there's alcohol in that camel's milk. They say horse milk is the same, actually. Horse milk also has a small amount of alcohol in it, and you can also buy that at the restaurant. So it kind of makes sense when you see the foals falling all about the place after drinking milk from their mamas. But I mean, it's something I never knew before, that there was this alcohol content, and that it was actually sort of like a delicacy in certain parts of the world where you could drink camel's milk and horse milk. So yeah, very, 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 very interesting place. I loved it. I loved the people. It's almost like, again, like family. They look to me like Cape Malay, the Kazakh people. If you look at the appearance, and I actually still have some photographs of these big families. There was a family once, about 12 or 14, from grannies all the way down to grandchildren, and they insisted they needed to take this photo with me on the grass, kneeling in front. The whole family's around, and I swear to you, if you looked at it, you'd think it was my family. I was obviously like the most tanned one, but it looked like my family, all of them. So it's a place I loved. I did a very good business there. I found it easy to talk to, even though I needed a translator. I found it very, very easy to deal with them. They're very sort of open and honest and to the point with what they will accept and what they won't accept. And they stick to their word. They're still old-fashioned people that do business on a handshake type of thing. So I did some very, very good business in Kazakhstan, and I, as a consequence of the first client that I had, by word of mouth, I think I got 4 or 5 other clients in the region. So it was quite a success story for me, and I'll keep going back for the camel's milk, of course.